And we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? I'm going to shut this window down and talk to you guys a little bit. So today we are doing the pre-production phase. We're going over the pre-production phase of film development. And in this case, it's going to be for YouTube. So if you have any questions, if you can't hear me, let me know. And so just to recap, this is the third live stream in a series of live streams on the stages of production for film, but also more tailored towards YouTube, but kind of bringing them together. The first live stream, we discussed all 6 phases. So phase, you have the development phase, you have the pre-production phase, you have the production phase, you have the post-production phase, and then you have in film production, you have the exhibition stage and then the distributions stage. So, so for YouTube, those last 2 are kind of, iffy. Like, what is the exhibition stage and what is the distribution phase? And that, of course, when we get to those 2 stages, I'll talk about it in more detail. And so just to recap, last week we did the development phase, and the development phase is when you got the idea. You're coming up with that idea. And then you're just making sure that that idea is viable. Is that going to work? And of course, you're attaching like your talent, your main talent, like especially if you're going for something big like Mr. Beast does all the time, and he just did the Beast Games, and he attached some high A-level talent to that. Like Kevin Hart was a part of that production, and I'm sure there was a few more actors in there. Can't remember. Yeah, there were a lot more actors in there, but he attached a bunch of talent. I'm sure that he attached that talent in the development phase. So when he was developing the idea of Beast Games, and that's what you want to do. You also want to do like high level budgeting. Okay, what on a high level, what's this going to cost? You definitely want to do that in the development phase, and definitely like if whatever the script is, you're going to write the script. And pick your audience, all that stuff. Like what's that video gonna do? That's the development phase, and you're making that solid. And once that's solid, you're gonna jump into the pre-production phase. This is like, you've greenlit the idea in the development phase. Okay, this is it. The script is written. I've got Tom Cruise attached to this, and I've got the finances in place to be able to pay this. Then you're going to jump into the pre-production phase, okay? And that's what we're going to go over today. So if you got any questions, please drop them in the chat. I am monitoring the chat right here, and I did make sure that this is actually going through on YouTube. You know what I didn't check? So I'm actually streaming this to 3 platforms. So this is my distribution. We talked about the exhibition distribution. And in my distribution for this live stream, I'm actually live streaming this to 3 different platforms. Hopefully you're on YouTube watching this, or you're on Facebook watching this, or you're on LinkedIn. So I'm going to double check the Facebook feed to make sure that it's going through. And because, I'm working out glitches. So I believe this is my 6th live stream so far. I got to double check that. And in the first live stream, I didn't have audio for 2 minutes. But you know what I love about live streaming? And kind of this goes into like the production process, that when you got the 6 stages, the post-production part of it is 0. So, that's the most time consuming sometimes is the post-production. I mean, the development phase and the pre-production phase can be somewhat time consuming, but that's a lot of fun. I mean, that's like the idea is always the exciting part of it. Oh, and then getting to attach your actors and getting to, finance it and getting the budgets. And that's kind of exciting. But then when you get into post-production, that's like just sitting, for me anyways, that's like sitting in front of a computer and editing for hours on end. I mean, typically the industry average is for every minute of that video, you're going to put in 4 hours of editing. So let's say, and that when I mean editing, I mean sitting in front of a computer and editing, which I like to walk around. I like to meet people. I like to talk to people. Am I an extrovert or an introvert? I think it's kind of hard to tell, because I think I'm an introvert, but then I do like talk. It's complicated. So the 4 hours per minute. So if your video is 10 minutes, you're looking at 40 hours of sitting in front of that computer and editing, which is the part that I don't like. But then, I can outsource that, right? So I can still have fun in this process. But on these live streams, it's great because it's like one and done. Like I just hit record and then I hit end and then boom, it's out there. I don't have to worry about the editing part. But then again, maybe that's why these live streams are in this conversation style. Like I'm talking to you, talk to me, leave me a message in the chat. Let me know what you think about these live streams. Where are you from? I'm like curious about all that stuff. Maybe I just don't have enough people watching yet. I know it takes time to develop anything and build anything. So I'm in that building phase. Okay, so let's get into pre-production. Now I made a list of, and I'm going to share my screen with you in a second, of the pre-production process. But then again, just remember, in pre-production, before you push record on that camera, there are a lot of things that you got to do to make sure that you're going to have a successful shoot, because the production part is the most expensive part of your production, right? That's when you're going to spend the most amount of money. I mean, some people get away with not spending any money. A lot of times I'm not spending any money, but my client is. If I show up on his doorstep and start and hit record, you're spending money. If you're my client, you're spending money when I'm on that doorstep hitting record. We're in the production phase and you're spending money. If something happens with the shoot, or you mess up on the script and we have to reshoot it, or the fire alarm goes off and we can't get good audio, then we got to so then it becomes more expensive, right? So that pre-production planning is going to help you make sure that everything, all your ducks are in a line and everything is going to go according to plan, so that everything goes according to plan and you keep within your budget. You kind of, your spending is in control. Okay, so let me share my screen. I'm going to share, actually I'm going to share a tab because this is what I put together. And then we'll go over each one of these, kind of one by one. This is a narrative film pre-production checklist. And I wanted to go over the narrative film because that's where we're taking this from. I went to film school and I studied film, and I'm using all my knowledge and my studies of what I've learned to put into my YouTube production. I got to take a sip of my coffee. So let me tell you the story. When I was in film school, I kind of realized nowadays it's different. I mean, this was like I went to film school and I started in 2005, right? And and then this was pre like Netflix, pre-streaming, pre-Amazon Prime Video, all that stuff. And back then, I went into film because I wanted to make movies. And then as I was studying, I realized that, wow, to make movies is, and we call it, like in the oil industry, you say wildcatting. So like an oil company will drill 100 wells and maybe one of them will hit, but that one that hits makes so much money, it covers the expense on all the 100 wells plus profit, right? So the movie industry is like that as well. Back in the day, there's so many movies being made and very few of them actually make money, but the ones that do make money, boom, like they hit. And then really the only ones that are profiting from that are the studios, because they're the ones that purchase the film. They purchase the film for cheap, but to make the film is very expensive. So like a low budget film is $5 to $10 million. So as I was going through school, YouTube, I think YouTube started in 2006. And then by 2009, YouTube had really grown a lot. 2010, 2016, I think YouTube transformed a lot too. And then I started, okay, well, I can use all my knowledge and skills to produce content on YouTube, and it's not going to cost me $5 million. I can do narrative film. I can do anything I want. You can do anything you want. And then I started putting things together. I love business, and bam, I can help people grow their business using YouTube and having fun creating content, right? So that's my story. That's my spiel. And so that's why we're kind of looking at the narrative film side of pre-production. It's actually really, really tight. I mean, if you do this, you are guaranteed, hopefully, maybe I shouldn't say guaranteed, but no, you're guaranteed to have a great product, right? Okay, so narrative film production. So the first thing, your project is locked. Your development, you've gone through your development phase, you've written the script, and you've got your main actors attached. and you've got your financing in place. That's locked and loaded, right? So then, what did I just do? I hit a button. I hit return. Okay, now this is a live. This is a live document. Okay, so you've decided the script is shootable. Your scene numbers are locked. So that means when you wrote the script, you've got your scenes in place. Basic creative decisions like aspect ratio, color versus black and white. That now this is also you decide this in the development phase, right? So are you going to do reels? So reels are portrait, and YouTube videos are landscape, right? So you've got your 9 by 18, 9 by 16, or your 16 by 9, right? 16 by 9 is like landscape. Like what you're watching right now is 16 by 9. Or if you're going to do a reel, 9 by 16. So all that you've decided, that's locked in. You've got your okay. Now you're going into the money and the legal, right? So whenever YouTube is kind of like there's a big, huge gray area, but definitely you want to make sure that you have releases, right? So whoever's in your video, make sure they sign a release, okay? That's just, it's always good legally to have that in place, because let's say you start making all this money from, and then somebody someone that was in your video turns around and says, hey, you didn't pay me. You handshook a deal that you were going to pay me and you didn't pay. So it just gets, it gets kind of crazy sometimes when you make money, but definitely make sure your releases are signed and filled out and signed, okay? So in the pre-production phase, you're going to make, your financing is secured, and you're doing your budget, your kind of overall budgets have been created, but now in the pre-production phase, you're going to fine tune that budget, and every single line item, you've got your above the line items and below the line items. So the above the line items are like your talent and the stuff that's, that you're actually already started paying for in the development phase. Because a lot of times if you sign a main actor, let's say you do get Tom Cruise to sign an agreement to be in your video, they want to get paid when they sign. Like you got to pay them, let's say $5 million just to sign, just to say that they're going to be in your video. Because if they say that they're going to be in your video, that's already value, production value, and you can market that. You say, hey, like I can put a pre-video release trailer saying, hey guys, next week I'm going to have Tom Cruise on my video, and boom, you're going to get viewers just because you said that. Okay, so yeah, money, legal, you want to make sure, if you're doing YouTube videos, yeah, this LLC, that's usually for every independent film, they create an LLC, a company, right? But you probably already have your company, you probably already have your insurance. Okay, here's releases, appearance, location. So your releases are signed. Now remember, releases include, in the pre-production phase, you're getting that stuff. You're getting people to sign that stuff. And then your releases include the location, the music, the artwork, everything, images, whatever is going to be in that video you want to release. So let's say I go into a restaurant and I shoot my video. I'm going to want the manager to sign a release, giving me permission to use that restaurant in my production, right? Any kind of music, usually music, you line that up in the pre-production phase and you say, I'm going to use this music, or I'm going to have this composer compose this song, or however you do it, you get the releases. But nowadays, of course, with stock media, that's already there. When you choose a song, you already have the permission to use that song. And if you don't, like if you haven't paid for a subscription to a stock media, like I use Envato Elements, and it's really great. The Envato Elements, like I'll go in there and choose a song, and I'll just download the rights, the copyrights to that. And when YouTube says they give me a copyright strike, they say, okay, they don't give me actually a strike, but they give me a copyright. I have to dispute it, and I'm just like, okay, I do have the rights to this, and I go through all the windows, and then I upload and paste the copyright that I have, and then they release that song to me, right? Okay, so yeah, and union rules, now we're looking at the union rules and SAG-AFTRA. That's like a lot of times, you know, in a YouTube production, you could use SAG-AFTRA actors, you could use actors, and you just want to double check that you're actually in compliance with those. Okay, so in pre-production phase, you're going to want to get your core team together and start communicating with them, right? Usually in the development phase, you've probably, if right, there's a narrative production, you've already attached the director. Like the director is a big thing. And you could, for a YouTube video, like if you want to produce a really amazing YouTube video, you could have someone you're already talking to help you direct it, like someone that has experience, and they're going to come in and help you make sure that everything goes smooth. So in the pre-production phase, you're already communicating with them. Okay, what's a line producer? So unit producer. These are like producers usually help you get the financing, right? So when you see in a film, when you see produced by assistant producer, usually they're either helping with the overall planning or the financing. Okay, so but you're getting this team together, right? And when you look at the credits in a movie, there's like thousands of people. All those people are you're assembling all those people in the pre-production phase. Okay, so the director, the first AD. The first AD is like the camera, the assistant, I'm sorry, the first AD is the assistant director, the production designer, the sound mixer, the costumes, the editors confirmed, and then you're putting together a communication plan. So this is all, you're putting this together. Now, in a YouTube video, you're not going to have all that, but you might. Like I did a shoot the other day for a friend. It was a celebration of life ceremony. Robert Gilmore passed away, and I filmed his production. I filmed his ceremony, and I had to do some pre-production in that. I had to find some additional camera people. I had to understand the layout of the location and where was I going to get power, where was I going to get all this kind of stuff, where am I going to place the cameras. That's all the pre-production phase, right? So you are like here, like sound mixer confirmed, like where am I going to get the audio, right? All that's pre-production, no matter what you're doing, live production or live streaming or regular production. Okay, so script breakdown and scheduling. Okay, so you wrote the script in the development phase, and you're going to break that script down. So you're going to go, before you even shoot, you're going to look at every scene in that script, and you're going to decide, what do I want to film for this scene? Okay, you're going to attach the audio and the visual to that scene. That's kind of really important, because that's going to help you efficiently shoot what you want. Like you could take, I remember when I was in film school and I did a 30-second commercial, and it took me like 16 hours to film that 30-second commercial, because I really didn't plan it out very well. It was like my very first semester, and I drove to this place and then drove to that place and then drove to this place and then drove to that place again to get the shots. And it wasn't very, because I was like doing in sequence of the script. Usually you don't want to do that. Like if you've got scene 1 and scene 15 are in this one location, then you want to shoot scene 1 and scene 15 together, right? So instead of shooting 1, 2, 3, and then when you get back to 15, you drive back to that location, that's like a waste of time. But I had a good time. I was with my friends. So, okay. So then, yeah, you're going through there, you're breaking down the script, you're deciding a shooting schedule, you're deciding like weather risks, season risks. Is it going to rain? Like if you're in an outdoor shoot, you're looking at the weather report, and if it's an outdoor shoot and it starts raining, you really can't shoot, because you could if you protected your equipment from the rain, but then it's really hard to capture good audio, so you'd probably want to wait, right? Okay, casting and rehearsals. Okay, who's going to be in your video is the casting, right? And your rehearsals, it's a great idea to do rehearsals. If you're going to, especially for YouTube, if you have a script and you're going to read from a teleprompter, rehearse that script at least 10 times before you film, right? That's just getting that, because with a teleprompter, you don't want it to sound like you're reading. You want it to sound like you're actually talking to the person behind that camera. So then you want to rehearse that over and over and over again. You're doing that in the pre-production phase. And then of course, you're blocking scenes. So like if I'm going to film a fight scene, I was going to try to film a video last 2 weeks ago on Aikido versus Jiu-Jitsu. And it was going to be kind of like a fight scene. And I wanted to rehearse that with the person that we were going to do the video. And it turned out that we weren't able to. This happened, that happened, and that shoot got canceled because I wasn't going to put the energy into it without being properly prepared, right? Okay, table read, that's when you get together with everybody, read the script together. You're doing rehearsal schedules. You're doing coaching if needed. So all that stuff is in the pre-production phase, right? Okay, locations and permits, right? So you're finding your locations in the pre-production phase. If you want a scene, like I was going to do that Aikido versus Jiu-Jitsu scene, I needed a good location inside of a dojo. Perfect. On the grass, not so good, right? Some people do that. There's a video that I've seen where the guy, he goes to a beach and he puts up a sign. He says, "Take me down and I'll give you $1,000." But that's on a beach and that's more like wrestling. Okay, so locations shortlisted, scouted. You go to every location before the shoot and you look at it and you decide, can I shoot here? Do I have enough power? Do I have the angles? Can I get the angles? Is the audio going to be good? You always want to check audio because, in a real movie, you'll do ADR, which is called automatic dial replacement. So the audio is not really that important because if there's a big echo and you're in a big room and there's an echo, it's not important because you're going to go into a sound stage and then get that audio after the production. The actors have to come back in and lip sync it. So that's why movies have such good audio. Okay, so your locations are locked with signed agreements. Any permits that you need, you got them. I filmed at Memorial Park one time, and I had to get a permit before filming. It was kind of funny because actually the first time, that 30-second commercial that I told you guys about, the first time I filmed, I went to Memorial Park to film a scene in there, and the police did come, and they kind of kicked me out because I didn't have a permit to film there. And how do you get a permit? You go to for the parks, you go to the Houston Parks and Recreations Department and you ask them, "Hey, I'd like to film. What are the processes to get the permit?" It's really easy. Okay, parking, base camp plan mapped out. So that's, you make sure, like I got a truck full of gear. I got to make sure where I can park the vehicle and get the gear out. So all that stuff, power, how are you going to get your power? How are you going to power your cameras? All that's really important. So you're doing that in the pre-production phase. You're making sure that's squared away, right? Noise control plan. I remember way back I did a video for a Medicare YouTube channel that did videos on Medicare. And I drove up to Dallas. I actually rented the studio thinking that studio was going to be good because it was like on a platform called Peerspace that's for production. And when I get there, the noise level is terrible. There was a guy riding his motorcycle around the building. I could hear that inside and I couldn't get good audio and I needed good audio. So that was like a huge fail, but you always make sure that you understand the noise levels of where you're going to shoot. And location rules are there. Like the restaurant might say, "I don't want anybody parked right here." Make sure those rules are communicated to everybody. Okay, so now we're looking at the visual plan, okay? You're doing all this, remember, we're doing all this in the pre-production phase before you shoot. You're getting your shot list built, you're getting your storyboards created. Storyboard is like, you're drawing out, like kind of like a cartoon book, a comic. You're drawing out every scene that you want to film. You make sure that the wardrobes and the makeups look good under the lighting. So that's kind of important, especially with video cameras. I remember, and it's not so much these days, but this is like more like 10 years ago, but we still follow that rule. Like with shirts, you don't want shirts with stripes down them because the way the sensors pick it up kind of make them wave a little bit. So, you want to make sure that you got a good wardrobe, your art direction is set, your props, whatever props you need, you've got them on hand, categorized, cataloged, all that stuff. And whatever you need, you got it. Continuity is also very important. They got this down here. Continuity systems are set. That means like, okay, a lot of times in a movie, you're drinking a cup of water. You can't see how much liquid is in here, but continuity means that if I take a sip, there's still a little bit left. But if I have a scene where like I'm talking and then all of a sudden we go to a different angle and the cup is down, the liquid is down to here. There's a break in continuity. So all that little stuff, a lot of film sets will hire someone that has an excellent memory to make sure that all that continuity is in place. Okay, technical plans. So sound strategy confirmed. What kind of audio, you're doing that, of course, when we're doing this in the pre-production, what mics are you going to use? Where are you going to place those mics? Okay, all that is decided. Your visual effects are planned for. Your media workflow is planned for, like where are you going to record? Where are you going to download? How are you going to capture all that? How are you going to prepare your dailies? A daily is when you put like all the footage that you took for that day, and you just map it out on a timeline so you can look at it and you can see, okay, that's a good take, that's a good take, that's a bad take. And you can kind of start marking it out. So you've got all that planned out. And of course, your music plan is your music is planned out. You always want to plan out your music before you shoot. Not so much in the, a lot of people do it in the post-production. A lot of times I do it in the post-production phase, but I've already got that. I've done it so many times, but then really you want to plan out the music ahead of time. Choose the music that you want before you start filming, because that helps you create the mood. Okay, so logistics. Remember, we're doing this in the pre-production phase. We're planning for who are you hiring. So the other day I did that live stream. I hired 2 people to come and help me shoot. Food, rates, what kind of equipment are they going to use? If they're coming from out of town, do you have their hotels booked? How are you going to communicate them? Walkie-talkies. Like I have a headset. I actually, on that shoot, I did not use a headset, but on a different live stream, I do use a headset, and I've got all that planned out so that I know exactly how to communicate with people. And then remember, like the more intense you do this pre-production phase, the better your shoot is going to be. Okay, safety risk. Another thing you have to think about, like, well, do you have a first aid kit? Are you going to be on the top of a mountain and then all of a sudden a lightning storm comes? You're aware of that. What are you going to do? What's your plan? How are you going to get away from getting struck by lightning? Your emergency contact sheets, where's the nearest hospital? All that stuff you should have planned out before you shoot. COVID illness policy. What happens if someone comes on set and they have COVID and they give it to everybody? That kind of shut down production for a year when they were making movies. Okay, your final readiness set. This is before, 48 to 72 hours before you shoot. You've scouted out all the locations. Your final schedule has been published. Everybody knows at what time they need to be there. That's a call sheet, a day 1 call sheet. That means when you send out a call sheet, everybody knows exactly where the location is and at what time, right? You've reconfirmed the locations. You've got all the gear ready to go. You've got all the batteries charged, and you've got all the props and all the wardrobes ready. And then you've got backup plans. Like if this fails, that fails. And guys, that is the whole pre-production phase. Get that right. You will have a much better shoot, because for me anyways, the production phase is the most exciting phase. And I have the most fun producing stuff. That's my fun phase. I do like planning stuff. I don't like the post-production phase because I don't like sitting in front of a computer, staring at a computer for hours on end. I get bored. I want to get up and do something else. And of course, the exhibition phase, that's fun. Scheduling the videos and seeing them go out, that's always fun. That's fun for everybody. Okay, guys. So again, just to refresh, we've got the 6 phases of production. So we're going to do 6 live streams. We're going to go over every phase. Okay, but it's actually going to be 7, because the first live stream that I did covered all 6. We have the development phase where you're getting that idea, producing a script and attaching your main actors. You have the pre-production phase, the blueprint, the plan, where you've got everything written down to a T, all your T's crossed, all your I's dotted, everything. And then you got your production phase where you're actually going into production. Okay, you're going to film. Then you got your post-production, your editing. That's when that's where the magic happens. That's where you put everything together and you create an amazing video that everybody wants to watch. And that's going to help you grow your business, because we're focusing on YouTube to help you grow your business. That's, you want to produce a good product, which is in the planning phase, the development and the planning pre-production phase. You're going to develop a good product, and then you're going to go into the post-production. You're going to make an amazing product. Then you have your exhibition stage. The exhibition stage is For the YouTube production part is when you schedule that video out on YouTube. Okay, that you're going to exhibit it. You're going to show it to the world on YouTube, right? And then your distribution phase, then you're going to wait a little bit. You're going to wait like 14 days, and then you're going to distribute that video through newsletters, through emails, through your sales staff. Your sales staff, like let's say a client walks into your company and says, you know what? Why, like for a foundation company, they go, why are you using these piers or these cement blocks? Why are you using them? And they go, hey, you know what? I've got a video. Let me email that to you, and explains everything in detail. That's like the distribution phase. You're helping your sales staff is using those videos to help you get your potential customer in the sales funnel faster down that sales funnel to close the deal. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, comment. Always comment. You know, I love the interaction. And today there weren't any chats today, but you know, if you feel free to chat, it'd be awesome to hear from you. I'd love to get to know you a little bit better. And then remember, I am content guaranteed. I help businesses create content in order to help them grow their business. And right now, I offer a free strategy session. You can go to my website, and I think that is in the description of this video. You can go to my website, schedule a free strategy session. I'll sit down with you for 30 minutes, and we'll go over some strategies and how you can use YouTube to build your business. And then and if you like it and you want to hire me, great. But you don't have to hire me. You could go on your own, use your iPhone, and start creating that content and uploading it. So, you know, the point is that you actually use YouTube. It's a great distribution channel for reaching out the whole world. Like you can reach 2 billion people with some content that you create. You make a video, let's say use makeup is good. You know, always makeup. You come up with this new lipstick and you put it on YouTube and you say, hey, this is a new lipstick, and you can reach the whole world, and the whole world could buy. Well, not the whole world, because I don't think the whole world would use lipstick. Mostly women. Sometimes men use it. I've seen a lot of men use it, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like you can actually reach all those people. Okay, guys, see you in the next video. Have fun, and thank you for watching.